Good evening. It's the Commish. Welcome to the 10th edition of the Pick'em Playoff Selection Show. Not all have been done via video, but nonetheless, it sounds cooler to say it's been 10 years of this. I'm coming to you live here on Christmas night from the Stevenson Family Den here in Memphis, Tennessee. Lizzie is yonder over there. She has taken the news very, very hard that she won't be in the playoffs again this year, and therefore will not be joining us on this video. I took the news hard myself as well. For 65 of you, your season has come to an end here at the end of week 17. Of course, you'll have more instructions as to how you get one last chance to possibly win some money. But for 16 of you, your season will continue into next week. And I am here to, as I have the last number of years, my service here is to sort of announce the 16 playoff participants. I'm here wearing my You Done Messed Up Aaron sweater again. By the way, we have not left the house today. It's Christmas night. Nothing's open. So hope all of you have had a nice Christmas day and, of course, had a nice Hanukkah and just a wonderful holiday season. And no, I have not showered or cleaned up for this. I'm sorry for that. I'm not sorry. I'm also not sorry about announcing the number one seed, Matt Brenner. It's been a long, long slog for the Brenner family in this Pick'em League, and Matt is the first member of the family to make the playoffs since I did it back in 2013. As Matt said earlier today, really hasn't done too much crazy special or anything like that, just steady Eddie all the way. And so Matt will have the number one pick in the upcoming playoffs. Always like starting off by announcing the number one pick before I get into the refresher here of how this all works. There's going to be 16 seeds. Matt, of course, is number one. The 1 through 6 seeds are going to have to sit out week 17, whereas 7 through 16, you guys all will have to make your picks like normal in week 17. The top 6 scores will advance to the actual Pick'em playoffs, joining those top 6, and then it's going to be a draft. You've got 12 NFL teams. You've got 12 people still playing, and you'll take turns drafting a team that's going to represent you the whole rest of the way. And if you're the lowest seed, then your work is pretty much done because you'll get whichever team is remaining and available. If you're number one, as Matt is here, he's won the right to pick whichever team he darn well chooses. The number one team often has won the Super Bowl, and they often have not as well. So it's a tough choice. Choose wisely, Matt. But Matt had 175 points and 5 bonus points on the year. What's kind of cool this year, boys and girls, is the first tiebreaker is bonus points, and the tiebreakers actually ended up determining a couple of pretty important races. One of them is the number one overall seed, because also with 175 points. One quick note, by the way, I should mention, these point totals are going into the couple of games here on Monday night. As I record this, the Steelers are up by approximately 90 points on the Texans. And then, of course, we have Raiders-Eagles later tonight. None of these games today have any bearing on the standings. So, Matt's got 175, for example. He may well end up with 177. Doesn't really matter. The seeds will not change. Also with 175 points, Christina, one of our 2 engaged women who are, I think it's 2 engaged girls, no engaged guys who made the playoffs this year. But well done, number 2 overall seed, winning a very, very challenging USA division here. There's a total of 5 playoff people coming from the USA division, and Christina, you were in first place for about the last 5-6 weeks of the year, and because Christina only had 2 bonus points, she loses the tiebreaker to Matt, and therefore Christina will have the number 2 pick in the draft. Still an excellent, excellent season, and we'll be drafting early in the first playoff week. Number 3 overall seed coming from Matthew's Mountain Division, and they had a good tussle to the end to settle not just the number 1 overall seed, but who would be winning that Mountain Division. Is Danny Todfeld. Danny was week 1 stud, really came out of the blocks quick, and it fell off a little bit in the middle of the season, but still was able to finish with that number 3 overall seed, a couple of points behind Matt and Christina. And then number 4, I always feel like the top 4 seeds are really, that's the biggest prize. It's great to finish number 1. It's great to be in the playoffs, period. It's great to be in the top 6 to where you don't have to pick up week 17. I've always thought that that top 4 is really critical because that way you not only have a bye through week 17, but then you get to pick a team that doesn't have to play during the wild card round. So very enviable spot to be if your name is Matt, Christina, Danny, or Sarah Freistadt. Sarah, first playoff appearance for her in this league with 172 points. I did not check this. She might have led that Midwest division from wire to wire. She was really, really good all year long, and just kind of like Matthew, pretty steady. Not really the ups and downs that most people experience throughout the year. And so Sarah, you'll have the number 4 pick, and like I said, those top 4 picks I've always thought are pretty valuable. We got 2 people left who will get to sit it out during week 17. Number 5 seed might be the hottest player in the whole league, Eric Sprott. A couple of weeks in a row being Sunday's stud, and 171 points. Ended up only 4 points back of the number 1 overall seed, winning the Clemson division. Probably the second best division in the league all year long, behind the America division. But Sprott, I am not sure on this. I think this might be your first playoff appearance as well. At this moment, I meant to mention this right up top, but including this year, guys, there's been 16 playoff spots each of the 3 years. That's a total of 48 spots. 39 different people in those 48 spots. That's a lot of parity. It goes to show how hard this league is. Out of the 16 people in the playoffs this year, 13 were not in the playoffs last year, and I think by my count, 9 out of the 16 have never been in the playoffs, period. So it's really hard to be good year in and year out, and I will tip the cap here to a few of the playoff people this year who really have been strong year in and year out. But people like Eric Sprott, Sarah Freistadt, it's Matt Brunner. It's been tough. It's been tough throughout the years, and kudos to you guys for really coming on strong. I mentioned that the first tiebreaker is bonus points, and that it was pretty critical here. I'm holding here the number 6 and the number 7 seeds. You guys are in the same division. You guys had the same number of total points, but one of you had more bonus points, and therefore one of you will get a bye through week 17. The other has to actually make their picks in week 17, and your season is on the line. Steve Weissman barely pulling it out, the number 6 overall seed. It's funny, I've always felt like Steve and Danny have been really strong players since starting in this thing about 6-7 years ago. They've brought on Michelle and then Lexi and Melissa, and so as a group, a pretty strong gang of players. But I was surprised to see Steve Weissman is the first Weissman to make the playoffs since 2013. So very well done by Steve. He does get the number 6 overall seed. He is the USA runner-up with 170 points. And then the first wild card that we have, also from the U.S. division, is Carly. Carly, number 7 overall seed. She just missed the playoffs in 2016, so she was able to get over the hump. But it was a fight to the end with Steven and Carly to get not just that number 2 spot in the U.S. division for the automatic playoff spot, but that number 6 seed. So Carly is going to be the top seed of the Week 17 pickers, and as long as Carly goes on and has a good Week 17, she'll move on to the actual NFL playoffs. And number 7's that's a nice spot to pick, but you got to earn it first because Carly and the 9 people coming after her, their season could end after next week before we actually get into the draft. Once again from the USA division, as we go to the number 8 seed, Philip Braun, another one of those guys who's been a pretty consistent player over the last couple of years, just hasn't cracked through to the playoffs and will be making his debut, I do believe, with 168 points. Is the second wild card that we have here. And Phil, you're going to be picking number 8. Number 9 was sort of jockeying. We had some good, giving back and forth here with the Clemson top 3, and Aaron Cheslock gets the number 1 overall seed, number 9 overall seed with 168, losing to Phil on a tiebreaker. Regardless, AC is going to have a chance to make his picks in Week 17. And the way it works is that if those number 7, 8, 9 seeds, if they have a a poor week 17 and they get knocked out of the playoffs, then you might see those 9, 10, 11 type seeds move up in the pecking order as far as the draft. So that is how that seeding works. Just a point behind Aaron Cheslock and also in the same division, we call him Soccer Boy, Robbie Tinsley. I had my stats in my head here earlier, guys. I'm going to check this real quick. Robbie's been one of the more consistent players as far as making the playoffs. This is his third consecutive year making the playoffs. I could be wrong. I think Robbie's the only guy who can actually say that. So Robbie had 167 points, and so he's back in it at number 10. So we'll see how he does next week. We still haven't mentioned a couple of divisions here. We have the Eagle Division champion. In fact, the next two guys coming up here are from the Eagle Division, and Joseph Rauer pulling out the division title by the matter of a point. Gets that number 11 seed, and Joe hasn't been in the playoffs in a while, but he's back in, and he'll be picking number 11 should he make it through week 12. Excuse me, week 17. I'm looking at the number here. Number 12 seed, Matt Harris, has a record 5 playoff appearances in the last 7 years. Matt's got a knack for all this stuff. The tennis pools that we do, the pick'em, of course. He's pretty much good at everything except beating me at ping pong, but that's another story. Matt Harris losing to Joe Rauer by a matter of a point, and he will be picking number 12 if the week 17 picks go according to plan. Now we've got 4 playoff spots left here, guys, and do remember that the next 4 of you who you hear your name, if you do have a good week 17, and then some of the last few names that we said here, if they fall out during week 17, you could see your pick improve a little bit. So hopefully it does pan out for you. Andrew Malwitz, a few years ago, was maybe a top 2, top 3 type seed in the whole league, and then his wife Elizabeth was really solid last year. And Andrew, you are the number 13 seed going into the playoffs. I do want to take a moment to point out we had 3 girls in the top 7 seeds this year. You had Christina at number 2, Carly at number 7, and Sarah Freistadt at number 4. And my lovely fiance, who is in the other room, did want me to point out that she was the first girl ever to make the playoffs, and she does feel like a bit of a pioneer in all this. So very cool to see not just more girls playing in the league, but succeeding as well. Number 14 seed, Nate Bloomquist, runner-up in the Midwest Division with 164 points. Nate really survived at the end here. Had some close games in week 15, week 16 that was jostling the standings position there for the Midwest Division. You saw guys like Steve Schefter come just a little short. TJ Clayton, same deal. TJ was in a playoff position coming into this week, but every single point matters. The last 2 guys I mentioned had 164 and 163 points. Nate himself, 164 points. He actually advances on the tiebreaker. Steve Schefter had 164 points and 9 bonus points. The margin of error very, very small. So you had the number 1 seed decided by the tiebreaker, the number 6 seed to get that bye into the postseason decided by the tiebreaker, and then Nate making it in over Big Shep into the playoffs. So you don't want to chase too many bonus points, but it is important to make sure that you do pick them here and there because it could end up costing you your season. Jordan Schelling is the number 15 seed. He's also the Wisconsin champion. Every year, it seems like one division, just for whatever reason, doesn't have the top flight people. We've had the Quad City division have that in the past, the Midwest division, and this year it's Wisconsin, which historically has been a really strong group of people making picks there. But this year, it is the Wisconsin division that just a little bit less on the point totals. And you had Steve Schefter, James Bates, Brandon Rink, guys who had 164, 165, 166 points that they're in the top 16, but they won't be playing in the playoffs because the rule is we do guarantee playoff spots to the division champions and the division runners-up. So you do have Jordan at the number 15 seed, and rounding out the playoff field, back in the playoffs for the first time in years. This guy won the very first 2 championships. Ben Wargel, don't call it a comeback. Number 16 seed, he does need to go and make those Week 17 picks, and if he does survive through, then he'll be the number 12 pick out of 12. He won't actually get to do anything, but you never know. You never know. You might see a team like the Titans or the Chiefs or the Seahawks maybe sitting there. It just all depends on who's in the playoffs at the end, and it'll be interesting. So Ben Wargel, 163 points. He is the Wisconsin runner-up, and that rounds out the playoff field. So I'll be putting all this out in an email with the final standings as soon as that Eagles-Raiders game goes final tonight. But it's always fun, guys. This is going to be the last year of the Excel format. We're going to be switching things over to some kind of ESPN or Yahoo format where that's going to keep score. But I do love fostering this thing, and going to still be putting out the Sunday night recaps and the Thursday nonsense emails and all that good stuff. So regardless, keep an eye on that email for final instructions for how it's going to work. Week 17, even if you didn't see your name on one of these sheets of paper here, you do have one last chance to win Week 17 stud. And then, of course, for the 16 playoff people, some of you have been in the playoffs and know how this works. Fact is, most of you haven't been here before, so I'll have some instructions for you soon. So that's all for now. Signing off from Memphis. You guys have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.